Holosun just released their new ARO red dot, but they're still selling a lot of their similar circular style red dots. So the question is, what's the difference? Which type of red dot should you get for your build? These are very similar in many aspects, but there's also some key differences which might change which one you buy specifically for your setup. And as always, if you want to get either of these red dots and mounting options and magnifiers for them, head over to the link in the description, defensedistributors.com. The Holosun ARO is designed to replace Holosun's 403 line, which it already has. Holosun has discontinued their 403 red dots, moving on to the ARO pattern style, which is very similar in many aspects. The SCRS was a dot that was unlike many that Holosun had added on. While it maintains its typical circular pattern that you see in many circular red dots on the market, it is much smaller in form factor than these red dots, which brings some interesting dynamics to the platform. We're going to discuss the differences and similarities between these two. Obviously, there are a lot of similarities. They are red dots, they mount to Picatinny rails, they mount at the exact same height, the window sizes are very similar, and they have similar settings. But there are some key differences between these two that probably will change your intended use case between them. For starters, weight. The ARO comes in at around 3.38 ounces and the SCRS comes in at around 2.45 ounces. The ARO definitely weighs more, which makes sense because it is a bigger red dot, but they don't weigh significantly more than one another to make a real difference, I would say, in consideration when putting on your build. But mounting style might make a difference. The ARO uses the T2 mounting style. Using 4 screws at the bottom, you can mount these on a lot of aftermarket mounts. For example, if you want to get a higher mount to use with the flip to center, you could use either the Unity or the overbore options we carry at defensedistributors.com. The SCRS uses a 509T footprint. That is entirely different from the T2 style and means you'll have a lot less availability on the market for risers and different mounts. That being said, you're also able to swap between mounts and just put this on another Picatinny riser. So there is a solution around it, but you will have less mounts created specifically for this optic. The ARO comes with 2 different mounts, a 1.63, which is a lower 1/3, and a 1.05 height mount. The SCRS, on the other hand, only comes with one, the 1.63. The 1.63 is a pretty standard mount, so there's nothing really to worry there. Plus, you are able to get 509T mounts that will mount this a lot lower in height. The ARO is adjustable at 0.5 MOA per click. This means that every time you shift one of these turrets, it will move by 0.5 MOA, where the SCRS is adjustable by 1 MOA, a much bigger adjustment, meaning it's going to be harder to get a very, very precise 0 with the SCRS, but you'll probably be able to get close enough. The ARO runs off a CR2032 battery, which is what all of the Holosun optics for the majority run off of, whereas the SCRS runs off of an internal, non-removable battery. It's powered by a solar panel in the top and it recharges based on that, so theoretically with the SCRS you'll never have to remove the battery. Now, red dots in general like this do have a shelf life, so eventually you probably are going to have to replace the whole red dot entirely, but in that time frame you won't have to remove the battery. So that is a very interesting feature. Both of these red dots come in formats that have MRS, or a multi-reticle system, so you can switch between different reticles, but the ARO has 10 daylight settings and 2 night vision, whereas the SCRS has 8 daylight settings and 4 night vision. This means that if you want to use this with night vision, the SCRS is going to have more adjustability and is probably a better choice for passive aiming. The ARO has low parallax. Parallax is the amount of shift your red dot experiences when you're looking at something at distance and moving your head side to side. The ARO has a very, very low parallax rate, while the SCRS has low parallax, but not as low as the ARO. In fact, I was quite impressed when I was doing my testing just how low the parallax is on the ARO. And this will build into our final conclusions on the actual purpose of these two. The ARO red dot experiences a typical halo you find on higher settings. When you turn a red dot up to its highest brightness settings, you'll usually experience a red ring around the outside of the glass. This is just due to the way these red dots are constructed, but the SCRS on these highest settings does not experience that halo. So if you do find that halo annoying, the SCRS might be the better option. Both of these red dots are great red dots, but summing up with all of those different features we've discussed, there are very different use cases for them, and it depends on what you are looking for. If you are looking for more mounting options, less parallax, and more precise adjustment, the ARO might be the better choice for you. And if you're looking for night vision settings, no halo around the edges of the glass, and a smaller size setup in general, the SCRS may be better for you. The ARO is a much larger red dot, and so, for example, on the top of something like a Flux Raider, if you want a very, very small optic to fit on top there, but still want it to be closed emitter, and as large as you can get within that size frame, The SCRS really fits that build well. But personally, my recommendation on which to go with depends on your engagement distance. At the end of the day, the ARO is much more suited for longer ranged setups, and the SCRS is much more suited for shorter range setups. Because of its precise adjustments and low parallax, the ARO is great for distance, but the SCRS shines at closer distances and under night vision, which if you're passive aiming using a red dot with night vision, you are going to be shooting at lower distances. These are just some of the features that set these two red dots apart. It's always going to come down to your specific needs in a red dot, and I hope I've listed out enough considerations to compare these two and decide which one is better for your build. And remember, if you want these red dots and accessories for them, go to the link in the description, defensedistributors.com.